Welcome to Totally Talent Podcast by HR.com, your go-to source for all things talent. Whether you're looking for expert insights on high-volume hiring, the latest trends in recruitment technology, or strategies for building a winning team, we've got you covered. Join us for each episode as we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the talent landscape today. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Totally Talent on HR.com. I am your host, Mike Wood, and I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Sean Barry. He is the new CEO at Harver. Let's talk about how did you get into Harver? How did you get started there?
Well, first of all, Mike, thanks for having me on the podcast. Great to meet you and great to learn more about kind of your vision and mission and how HR.com is helping people figure stuff out. So thanks for the time. How I got to Harver. We're owned by a private equity firm out of Boulder, Colorado called Rubicon Technology Partners. Rubicon knew about me through some close references, connections, et cetera. And when they were ready to accelerate the growth of the company with a keen eye towards customers, like my entire career, I've been dealing with usually large to mid-sized enterprise customers and helping them solve problems. They reached out to me and asked if I would be interested, and I got a chance to dig in. I probably spent about 200 hours of research and meetings to really understand the purpose of the mission. And I think I was asking them questions. They're like, "Wow, you're really getting into this." And it's because I was so excited because the mission of the business fits with something that's actually really, really special to me. And I wanted to make sure that there was alignment before I left what I was doing to join this team. And I've been thrilled. I've only been here 6 weeks and I'm pinching myself.
Well, welcome to the whole HR Tech family. There's a lot of the same characters that you'll meet, and I'm happy to introduce you in person at HR Tech or any other places. But welcome to this like kind of crazy group of people that are all talking about hiring. You mentioned the mission of Harver. So, like, tell me a lot about what Harver does. What like at its basic, what does it do for teams?
Yeah, so I think our mission, hopefully, ideally and simply put, is helping connect candidates with job seekers and give them both enough information through scientific-based assessments so they can find their good fit. I mean, we're a big believer that there's a good fit, great fit job for every candidate out there, but you've got to be specific enough in what the traits and the characteristics are that the hiring company needs, and the individual has to make sure they match up to that in the right way with a humanistic approach. And so we feel like a good outcome is when an offer is extended with confidence on the hiring company and with enthusiasm from the candidate because they knew that that company took the time to get to know who they are personally and completely, not just their resume. We feel like it's much more than just a resume. So when that connection happens, we think it leads to longer hiring, happier satisfaction. And let's face it, like, if you're in a great job, being a dad, a partner, a community member, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, it's a hell of a lot easier when you're in a happy place at work. When you're not in a happy place at work, it's tough to do all the other jobs and all the other hats that we wear. So we feel like we get a pretty noble pursuit of something that has really big impact in the community when it goes right.
Yeah, I've been in a toxic job before, and it will drag you down to your core about and make you question everything and be like, why am I even going to this place every day? So I love that you're helping people find these good jobs.
And I think the scary thing is that a lot of times people are more likely to stay in a toxic job longer than a toxic relationship, because either they don't have the confidence to leave, or maybe they don't know what they're good at. They don't have an understanding of what their unique talents are, or they don't know what a good fit opportunity would be for them. And so, a lot of times people feel a bit stuck. And so I think we believe through a well-coordinated assessment process that's fair, unbiased, and has validity, both parties can get to a really good place together with high confidence. Because let's face it, like right now, hiring is harder than ever before between fraud, AI, unemployment trends, globalization, like trying to find your place of work and for a company trying to find their tribe, their people, it's way harder now than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be you'd have central location where the jobs are, and you'd have to go to that central location try to find a job, just go there every day. Now, like we all love working from home. I'm at home right now. I love being remote. I can put my kids on the bus. I can pick them up. I have stuff that I have to do outside of work. But we've opened the door, like this whole globalization practice is just like, now as a candidate, it's not just me and the people around me or me and similar people that have my background. It's me against the entire world. And that is terrifying from a candidate standpoint.
It's exactly right. There's someone in Ukraine, in France, in New Jersey, in California, in Canada, all may or may not be eligible for the job you're talking about. And so that creates a lot of competition for job seekers. On the flip side, now all of a sudden your job market is not just the place that you can hop in your car and commute to. You could go work in Ukraine, France, Canada, New Jersey, and do it from the comfort of your home. And maybe every once in a while you got to go see people. So it's almost kind of like the college acceptance process. I've got 2 daughters in college and one who's actually applying out this fall for next year. And now all of a sudden, like, kids are applying to 10, 20, 30 colleges now because the application process is a lot easier. And so it's creating a lot more chaos to know. I think when I applied to colleges, it was like 3 or 4. You know, it was this kind of, I had to like go see them first.
Mail in the physical thing. Yeah. Well, that's interesting because like that makes a lot of sense for them because it is so easy to apply. Why not? You don't lose anything if they say no. So you have these, that's happening in the job market right now. Yeah, it's like the easy apply button on LinkedIn, right to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, and now you have AI tools that
there's this whole.
Oh, sorry, I stepped right over you there.
Yeah, I was going to say there's this proverb that says like when something bad happens, you're like, well, is it good or bad? I don't know. Let's wait and see. So the easy apply has created a lot of pain on TA because they have to sort through a lot more in addition to a lot of the fraud that's coming in. The flip side is you can apply to a lot more. So I think it's put a lot more pressure on the HR teams to find, recruit, filter, do it fairly, do it ethically, do it without offending the job applicant, because the job applicant may be a consumer of their product. Like some of these large brands that have 20, 30, 40 applicants per role, they run the risk of, if they don't handle that delicately and appropriately, they could destroy a brand relationship. And people are quick to go to social media if they're not happy with how they're being treated, which is totally appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any of the systems that are meant for like customer service right now, everybody finds a workaround for it. So like you get stuck being transferred to one person, another person, and you're like, this process stinks. I'm going to put them on blast. I'm going to let everybody know, don't do business with this company.
Yeah.
And so exactly. I feel like, in a race to hire so quickly, if you treat candidates poorly, and it's going to come back. It's going to come back whether they tell friends not to go work for you, whether they don't buy your product. It's just you have to treat people. I know you need to fill your recs fast, but you need to treat people with a little bit of respect.
Yeah, and it's tougher to do that, and that's where we are. The vision of our company, or how we fulfill that vision, is working with our clients to truly dig into what are the traits, attributes, skills, and job competencies that are necessary, and then allowing those candidates to go through statistically valid, appropriate tests to assess where they're at. And it's kind of like Myers-Briggs. Like there's no wrong outcome for it. Like you don't fail a Myers-Briggs test for your personality, but it does give you some insight as to who you are. And so when our clients have a really good understanding of what they want the job to accomplish, we help them really look at some of the traits. Like EQ and resilience are 2 massively big characteristics that people are trying to uncover. And if you're going after early graduates or college graduates who don't have a resume yet or don't have a more extended work experience, it's even harder to try to pinpoint what their characteristics are and their traits if you go through the traditional kind of resume background. So there's a lot of really big macro trends that are putting pressure on how do you find and identify the people that fit? And then how do you get them through the process as quickly as possible? I think we have one client, it's a very large global accounting software platform. It's harder to get a job there than it is to get into Harvard. They have 23 applicants, qualified applicants who have the credentials, because they get bumped out if you can't identify that you have a specific credential. 23 for one hire. Harvard's acceptance rate is like I think 4.5%. Actually, no, sorry, 27, because they're at like 3.2. So it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, and it's only getting harder. As there's more candidates coming in here. There's more tools and whatnot. The hiring teams. My wife's a recruiter for a large healthcare company, and I can't get away from recruiting, but she's just like constantly struggling to fill these roles and to get people through and the process. We've never had so many tools that we have right now, and the process is still garbage. So something fundamentally has to change.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to make our small dent in the universe to help that easier. And I think one of the things that we put an eye towards is expectation setting for what the job is. So we have a full video production team that creates a narrative of what the job is, because if you start recruiting someone for a retail sales job or a call center role or a marketing analyst, if you can't really explain what the work is, what the job is, what they're expected to do, then what you end up getting is early churn, pre 90-day churn and turnover, which creates a bigger problem, because now all of a sudden you put someone in the seat, and if they're blowing out in 60, 90, or 120 days, a lot of times talent acquisition gets to like the 90-day mark, and day 91, it's not on me. Talent management and their local manager is responsible for that. But bringing someone in who comes through with that kind of level of turnover, the cost of that is extraordinary, and it just creates another issue for the recruiters that they have to solve. So when we look at how effective our platform is with our clients, we look at ultimate satisfaction of the experience, like how well did the candidate enjoy going through the assessments? Was their expectations set appropriately? Did it feel fair and reasonable and approachable? And then we look at, if there's a hire, what's the churn rate compared to people that they did not have as a good fit, people where they didn't assess or they didn't really dig into what the traits are. And then you can look at, in some jobs, what the production is. Could be if they're customer service, how happy they make their customers, if they're sales professionals, how they're doing a quota. If they're something where you can metric the job, you really start looking at like who is the right fit. Because I think a lot of the noise and a lot of the junk, as you call it, I think is just the wrong person in the wrong job, or the wrong job for the wrong person, which just creates a lot of angst.
Or there's like an emotional quality to that person that doesn't fit with the job, or that, they might be better at, like I've heard from, like I'm a comms guy, I'm a marketing guy, but I heard for years, you should go into sales because you can talk to people on the phone. I'm like, you know what? I probably could have done that, but never really was pushed in that direction earlier on in my career. So there could be someone that you hire for one role that, maybe better suited for another role within your organization. And that will help, move people around. Like if you hire someone and then they're gone in 60 days or they're gone in 90 days, you have to start over again. And it's like we just, to me, it's like, I've moved a couple times in my career, and it's horrible to move. I hate moving, packing up all your boxes, getting everything going and whatnot. And then you get done with it. You never want to do it again. And so it's like, I can't imagine the morale on the hiring team if you get someone and they just immediately leave in 60 days. Like,
yeah, it's funny you say that about you didn't get pushed earlier in your career to potentially pursue a career in sales. A big part of what attracted me to Harver is probably 15, 20 years ago, I was working at a company called All Connect, and I was head of partnerships and relationships. And we had a really close connection with one of the gas companies out in California. And I met with their VP there. We had a good rapport, and I asked him about his kids, and he talked about his daughter effusively. My daughter's going to law school. I mean, she was on top of all this stuff. And I asked about his son, and he said, yeah, he's not so good. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what is he good at? Like, he plays guitar. I'm like, oh, is he good? He's like, yeah. I go, can he sing? He goes, no, he's horrible. but he still sings anyhow. He doesn't care what people think because he likes singing. I'm like, well, good for him. I go, what else about him? He goes, he's very ethical. Like he will disclose proactively if something goes wrong. He has a really good moral compass. I'm like, well, man, that's ideal for sales. He goes, what? He goes, I go, sales. Like the salesperson is the one who actually has a good moral compass and doesn't take things personally when someone says no or no thank you. And their ability to keep trying to find the people who their product or their service solves a problem for takes a resilience, and you need to draw kind of self-awareness and self-esteem from within. And I planted that seed with him, and he's kind of like, okay. Fast forward 6 months later, I got to meet his wife for dinner for the first time when I was out in California. She gave me the biggest hug I've ever had in my entire life. And I just met this woman. I'm like, it's great to meet you. And she goes, thank you. I said, for what? She goes, you helped my husband see traits in my son that have been there all along that he didn't connect the dots on. And I said, I don't feel like I did anything special. It wasn't transformative, but that feeling of helping unlock someone's talents so another person can see it, I couldn't figure out a way how to make a business of that. I couldn't find a way to make money out of that and support my family. And then fast forward 20 some years later, Harver comes along and says, hey, we help uncover traits in people so they can be good fit, great fit for jobs, and we make money at it. Like, okay, I'm in. It's fantastic.
And that's great. Even as like a standalone service, if something did that, like there's no guidance anymore for your career. Everybody just you get out of college and good luck. You can go anywhere. You expect that you might get picked up by a great organization and you'll stay there for 10 years or whatever. I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. And so it's people have asked me, I think even Debbie, when I was talking to her about joining HR.com, people ask me like, what do you want to do in a couple of years, or what's your goal? I'm like, I don't know. I can't think 2 years in advance right now. I can't. There's things change.
Yeah.
Every year we've had a major change in the workforce. All I want to do is do good work with good people and be able to see my kids. That's it. So I think, the world is changing a little bit.
I think those are reasonable. Yeah. I think those are reasonable job requirements. And then when you go down a level, like, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? What are your traits and characteristics and attributes that you could bring into the marketplace for work? And I think that kind of scientific process of matching people, and we are adamant. We do not tell people who to hire. We are not we do not have an AI bot that says you're good, you're bad, and scans resumes. In fact, it's really quite the opposite. Once someone applies and identifies, we try to help them get oriented to what the job is, to set expectations. We, on behalf of our clients, will exercise a very efficient battery of tests and assessments so they can get insight as to where they are in terms of probability of success in the job. And we do it in ways that actually can apply to people no matter what socioeconomic, what educational background they have, because there's certain ways you can do assessments that has validity across, the kid who was raised in an upper income home in upstate New York and a kid that was raised in the heart of Central California in a farming village. Like both of those kids and both of those young adults have traits, attributions, and characteristics that are applicable, but trying to get an understanding of what those are in a way that's fair and equitable to both people who have very different upbringings. That's a tough thing to do at scale. And that's the thing that Harvard has figured out.
I love it. Now you mentioned that, so you I think you said you have a daughter going into college. What advice do you give her about the hiring market?
So it's funny. That's my third daughter in college. So
okay.
I have two daughters. I got one at NYU in film school, one at Berkeley going to dual degree in English and Spanish to go to law school. And my wife went back to grad school to get her master's in counseling at NYU. So I have 3 of 4 women in my home in college. Wow. So my fourth one, I'm not giving her any new advice that I haven't already given to the other 3. It really is like, don't try to pick a vocation. Try to pick things that you want to learn or things that you want to develop, skills and attributes. And I think there's so much pressure on kids now to get into the right school. And I mean, it was not like that when I was applying 30 some years ago. And so I think the advice is like, you're still in learning mode, and getting exposure to as much things as possible is really what college is all about.
So I
So
was one of
be
those
open to
kids that
learning
was
is
like,
really my advice.
yeah. So I was one of those kids who was always like pushed to get, you're trying to get straight A's, you're trying like to reach the top of your class, you're applying to all the good schools and stuff. And I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, I really wish I did that backpacking trip in Europe. I would have learned a lot more about myself quicker than I did in a classroom. Or, wow, I have an English degree and a music degree. They're both not doing anything for me right now. So it's like, I try to tell my kids, like, have experiences, meet people, find out different parts of yourself that you like, that you don't like, that you want to work on, that, take this pressure off yourself. I'll teach, I have a friend that teaches at BU, and she calls me in to help grade some of the final projects. And one of the things I started doing during COVID is I would have the kids. So these are all grad school students or whatever. And I had them on the cameras in front of me, and we're in the middle of it being the worst year that it's been in 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's just miserable. And I said, you know what? I want to take a step aside, and I want to give you guys some advice that I wish I had when I was your age. Do not judge yourself by what's on LinkedIn. You're going to go on LinkedIn, and everyone you know is going to be like, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm starting this new position at this wonderful dream company. Like, I'm starting at the chocolate factory as a chocolate tester. This is great. I'm set for life. And it's just depressing. So, just your first job's not going to be your last job. And like, you'll learn things I've learned something at every place that I've been in my career that, now I'm in my 40s and I'm like, okay, I kind of know who I am. I kind of know what works for me, but it's taken 20 years to get there.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out. I'm in my 50s. It's interesting as you talk about the college application process. I do think, having now 3 females in my home who have gone through this process, that colleges have gotten to a point where they're looking at the whole human. I think when I applied, it was grades. It was purely math. And so I think that they've done a really good job of trying to look for traits and attributions and characteristics that would help that student feel part of that school, because the volume of applications have gone up. For the schools that have a lot of academic rigor, you have, single digit acceptance rates. And so, my middle daughter got into Berkeley, which has a really, really, really low acceptance rate for out-of-state kids. And then there was other schools that she did not get into where she had, better academics than what their median was. And what I realized is that colleges have a pretty good idea on who's going to thrive in their environment. So it's kind of like a hiring company. Like, if you can identify the culture, because a lot of times, like, you come into a company, you can't change the culture. The culture is what it is. And you may not know through a resume process or a face-to-face interview. And when you ask the company, what's the culture like? It's wonderful. We're collaborative. We're all about our customers. We're all about our people. We love puppy dogs. Like, everyone, there's no differentiation in that. Like, until you can actually experience culture and see examples of it, even stuff like Glassdoor and Reputation.com, like, I think it's still really, really hard to get a feel for what it's like. So you have to take a leap of faith to jump into something without really knowing what it's going to be like. And so the more education you can have, and the better sorting of that, because sometimes getting a no, it's like Garth Brooks, thank God for unanswered prayers. Sometimes the job that you didn't get actually was a benefit to you, because it steered you toward the job you needed or the job you were supposed to get. And that puts a lot of pressure on TA. Like, TA has a lot of responsibility to pick from a limited group of people and hopefully predict that the outcome is going to be great for the company as well as the person. Like, I think that is in an extraordinary amount of pressure that recruiters have, and they're all under the gun. They've not been given, with all the candidate volume that's come in, they've not been given more money or more time or more resources. Is actually the opposite. You know, be faster, be less, go quicker, but don't be wrong. So I'm sure your wife has said this, like, I have to do twice the work and half the time, and the expectations for perfection have only gone up.
Well, it's just fun. It's funny because like you put the requisition out there. You have all these tools that are gonna pick the resumes and the backgrounds of the people who are most qualified for the specific keywords that you're looking for in that job. But then you get a list of 10 people and you're like, these all look almost exactly the same because they all have the same keywords and whatever. And you still have to go in and get beyond the resume. You still have to talk to an actual person. So there's this, in the space, there's this like coming, I don't know if job apocalypse or whatever, that like there's going to be a point where it's just the AI with the resumes is going up against the AI trying to cull through the resumes, and you're going to just get stuck at a standpoint, and you're still going to have to manually go through. So on the hiring team side, where can you automate, and where can you put in that human touch? I've been seeing it with a bunch of different places. I think the whole screening notion of candidates, like it used to be, like you get the resumes in and then you screen them. No, screening is ongoing. It's all the time. But it's just there's a coming like parity in where the job seeker and the hiring teams are both going to throw their hands up and be like, well, I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
Yeah. So our company's global. We have people on multiple continents. We have a big team in Amsterdam. So I was there a few weeks ago, and they were walking me through what a retail salesperson candidate experience job is for a very large jewelry company we support. And as they were walking through, there's this button that said location picker, an hour picker. I'm like, what's that? Like, oh, we built this functionality where, there's multiple stores because it's a franchise. And then we allow you to put the days and times and hours that work for you. So you can say like, yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I can go 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sunday, no. Like, and so all of a sudden it answers a lot of these questions about when, as an applicant, are you available to work? And so I'm like, that's cool. Because now all of a sudden, like the employer can say like, they get a read on what matters. And then if I say like, listen, I can't work Tuesdays and I can't work Saturdays because I have commitments on those days. And if the employer honors that ask when it comes in, you have both people coming in with expectations set. And it was just a simple question in the process that you can do very efficiently, which is, hey, what days and times are you good to work? And what locations, if you had to go to different stores, would you be comfortable going to? I'm like, wow, that's taken a lot of friction out of the process. And it's expectations.
But then there's that one store that nobody wants to go to, or
exactly. Yeah, and then they find the ones where they have to pay time and a half because traffic's bad, congested, the food court crummy, they don't have a Chick-fil-A there, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that the human aspect of what needs to be done is iterative between recruiters, hiring managers, talent management, which is cultivating the people, and then all these companies like Harver who say, hey, we're here to help. Like, help do what? How can you fit in my process, or what suggestions do you have to make my process better? And you have legislation that's coming out, EU, California, around AI, around privacy, on fairness. So now all of a sudden, as a TA person, you're not just worried about dealing with a bunch of resumes and trying to find the right fit. You're now dealing with legality, and heaven forbid you make a mistake that leads to a class action lawsuit, or it brings brand image destruction. Like the issue that McDonald's just had recently that was very, very public about all their applicant data getting compromised. Like, yikes. Like now all of a sudden, boy, you've got people in the HR department, getting asked a million questions about how could something like this happen. So it's like, you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't do everything flawlessly. And so I think that was part of the attraction too of coming into the HR space, because the people intensive part of this business and the technology enable of it has to be working in harmony. And I kind of agree with you that there's going to be there's going to be a more important human aspect on making decisions to aggregate all this different tech and aggregate these different processes. And I think there's going to be winners and losers. There's going to be companies that are like, finally look at HR and go, wow, you guys are killing it. Like, you're helping me be better than other people as a result of how you think about people attraction, retention, and development. And then, so it's kind of like everyone says people are a competitive advantage, but when it actually really becomes your competitive advantage, that's a big deal. And all of us have been in environments, whether it's stores or companies or brands, where you walk in, you're like, this is an amazing experience. This person was on it. They were a perfect fit. Like I bought tennis shoes recently at an on cloud store. It was amazing. Like it was literally, I mean, they were, they're expensive tennis shoes, like $130, but this young lady who helped me, like, asked me the right questions, discover what my needs were, asked me budget, made some recommendations. Like in 12 minutes, I had the most delightful experience because I think OnCloud had good training, good culture, good systems, good development, and good hiring. And so, yeah, I'm going back there. I'm not going to go to Dick's Sporting Goods ever again and buy tennis shoes because this was such a lovely experience. And, I don't know if the TA person at On would ever get credit for hiring that individual who did such a great job, because normally after 90 days, like, do more, we need more. But I think that's the kind of like future ahead. Companies that know how to handle talent appropriately will win.
Yeah, and it's like that level of service too. Like you could just buy tennis shoes off of Amazon if you just need shoes,
Yep.
but you want a pair of shoes that you like, a pair of shoes that you're going to stay in for a while. So you want the full experience. And I think that's what we're going to get, this kind of tiered entry level slash, I want a company, if they're going to hire me, I want them to actually want me, not just a guy that kind of looks like me.
Yeah.
So.
And what is it about you that they value? And I think that starts to come into play if you know what your core values are and you know what your competencies and skills and traits, and you have your expectations set on the job, and the hiring manager did more than just a job spec. Like, how many times have you seen job specs? You're like, this literally looks like cut and paste from 100 different things, and it doesn't tell me anything specifically.
Oh, and they're designed that way. They're
Yeah.
designed to be cut and paste. There's these generative AI tools that will cut and paste it for you. So it's
Like I love, like, AI's made a lot of positive impacts. It's also made a lot of negative impacts, but I feel like we're moving into a generative gobbledygook that says a lot without saying anything, and that's eventually someone's going to pay the price for that, either the company and the brand experience, or an excessive turnover, or realizations, because they've cut so many resources thinking that technology could really improve it, that they're caught flat-footed, that technology can't keep up with what they're trying to do with the human aspect of their company. So, I don't think AI is here to ruin the world. I think it's changing the world. Definitely, it's creating problems and it's creating opportunities. But I think at the end of the day, the human part of human resources doesn't go away, but it's getting harder. It's getting a lot harder. And that's why we're working on key initiatives like Smart Job Navigator, which is a way to assess someone for their traits and skills versus a specific job. And for people who are earlier in their career, recent college graduates who don't come with a long set of experiences of, I've done marketing, I've done sales, I've done operations. They just graduated from college, and maybe they were entrepreneurial, or maybe they had summer jobs or worked at summer camps or did internships. But if you can assess the traits and skills and then smartly help navigate people to the job that makes sense, which is, the brilliance of the name, Smart Job Navigator, that's the kind of feature functionality in our platform we're adding, because early grad, new grad, which is a huge part of the recruiting class, like recruiting efforts rather, of what you're doing, entry level and new jobs, hardest to place, hardest to find, most noise, most applicants. Like, we got to make that one a little bit easier for our customers.
I love it. I love the attention that you guys are paying to candidates and hiring teams. I've been thrilled talking with you, Sean. So
I've
if
enjoyed it,
people want to
Mike.
find,
I love what you
okay.
guys are doing with HR.com, and super excited to be in this industry, in this space, and definitely feel like I found a home with Harver.
Now, are you going to be at HR Tech this year?
It overlaps with our investor summit, which is a bummer because I'm like, and when they plan this out, they're like, Sean, unfortunately, we need you here to meet all of our investors. Our primary private equity firm manages pension funds for teachers' retirement, for large universities, for large endowments, the YMCA. Like, we've got a lot of folks who put their trust in our investor, and then the investor puts money into us to hopefully create return for them. So this is the time where you have to thank people and explain what we're doing. So sadly, I'm going to miss my first HR Tech, but I can assure you, I will be influencing the calendar for next year.
Yeah, well, there's so the next time you go to one of these industry conferences, there's also Transform in the beginning of next year. It's just I find so I've been going to these things for like 10 years now, and you go down the startup pavilion, and you just look at the different options that people coming out with. Like, this is the latest tech, and there's so many that are just like these interview note taker chat GPT
Mm-hmm.
things that someone just put a brand on it. And I'm like, how did this get to this point? Like, didn't someone just be like, well, that's just GPT that you put a logo
Yeah.
on? Like, and they're all over the place. So it's just funny that, like, it's nice to see a ton of innovation come in, but I think in a year from now, you're going to see some fall off, and there'll be more kind of consensus about where we want to go as an industry. But thanks for joining me, Sean. It's been a pleasure. Your
I
whole team
enjoyed
is
it, Mike.
wonderful to
Thank
work
you.
with. And take care. He's Sean Barry. He's the CEO over at Harver. Check them out, and I'll see you guys next time on Totally Talent.
Thanks for tuning in to the Totally Talent podcast by HR.com. We hope you find today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to explore more episodes and discover valuable resources at hr.com/podcasts, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference in the world of talent.